Every year, over 10 million people travel to Paris. They pass through the glass pyramid, descend beneath centuries of history, and gather in front of one small painting, the Mona Lisa. And what do most of them do? They lift their phones, take a selfie, and move on, barely looking at the artwork itself. But hidden behind that thin layer of glass and beneath the centuries-old varnish is something no photo can capture. A smile. A smile that seems to appear and then vanish. You look directly at her lips, nothing, but look away even slightly, and suddenly she's smiling. It's not a trick, it's science. Harvard neuroscientist Dr. Margaret Livingstone calls it perceptual ambiguity. You see, our eyes are built for survival, not for art. The center of our vision captures fine detail, but the edges, the periphery, it picks up shadows, motion and blur. And Leonardo somehow understood that centuries before neuroscience, he painted for the brain, not just for the eye. That's why the Mona Lisa doesn't just look alive. She feels alive because she changes just like a real person would, depending on where you're looking. Leonardo da Vinci didn't just paint the Mona Lisa, he engineered her. While other artists used what they were given, Leonardo made his own rules and his own materials. Pigments weren't just colors to him, they were chemicals. He crushed minerals, scraped metals, and melted compounds to create the perfect hues. Green from oxidized copper, vermilion from mercury and sulfur, white from ground lead. Dangerous, yes, but it gave him control over depth, transparency, and how light would move through every brushstroke. Modern scientists have now scanned the Mona Lisa using infrared, ultraviolet, and even X-rays. What they found wasn't just paint, it was a universe of layers. Leonardo didn't slap paint onto canvas. He built it slowly, methodically, one thin glaze at a time. Each layer lets light penetrate and bounce back differently, creating that luminous glow we still marvel at today. That's not just art, that's physics. He was simulating light behavior with nothing more than oil and pigment. And get this, he worked on the Mona Lisa for over 16 years. Why? Because he wasn't trying to paint a woman, he was trying to paint life itself. Forget white lab coats and test tubes. Leonardo da Vinci's laboratory was a sketchbook, and his tools were curiosity and a quill. Inside his famous notebooks written in mirror script are thousands of drawings, flying machines, hydraulic systems, war devices, musical instruments, human organs, all scattered across page after page in what can only be described as a stream of unfiltered genius. He wasn't just scribbling ideas, he was reverse engineering nature. One entry shows the swirl of water over a rock, another the shape of a falling seed. Then the curved arch of a bird's wing, followed by a machine meant to replicate it. Leonardo's anatomical obsession also went far beyond surface-level drawing. He dissected over 30 human corpses, painstakingly studying muscles, joints, and the flow of blood. He once described the heart as a mechanical pump 5 centuries before modern cardiology. These weren't artistic studies, they were scientific experiments before the scientific method even existed. Historians today still debate, was he an artist dabbling in science or a scientist who happened to paint? The answer, of course, is neither. He was both at once, and that was his true genius. In the year 1502, Leonardo designed a bridge so ambitious, nobody thought it would work. It was meant for the Sultan of Istanbul, an enormous single-span bridge over the Golden Horn. At a time when most bridges used multiple supports, Leonardo sketched one elegant arch relying solely on geometry. But the idea was shelved, too risky, too futuristic. Fast forward 500 years later. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a team of engineers took on the challenge: build Leonardo's bridge, using only the tools and materials available in his era. No glue, no screws, no nails. They recreated the wooden scaffolding, measured every angle from his sketch, and then they lifted it. The bridge stood. Not only that it held under simulated earthquakes, Leonardo wasn't guessing his design worked not just artistically, but structurally, because to him, beauty and physics were one and the same. This isn't just a story about a bridge. It's about how the genius of one man could leap over centuries waiting for science to catch up. To Leonardo da Vinci, painting wasn't just a form of expression, it was a form of exploration. He once wrote, "To paint well, you must understand the very nature of the thing you paint." So when he painted a mountain, he studied how rocks eroded. When he painted a river, he analyzed water flow. When he painted a tree, he dissected how branches split with mathematical precision. This obsession led to his signature technique, sfumato, meaning vanished or smoky in Italian. It's the soft transition between light and shadow without any visible brushstrokes or hard edges. It mimics how the human eye actually perceives the world's subtle, blended emotion. The Mona Lisa is the ultimate example. Look at her mouth. You won't find a line defining it, just a haze. A suggestion, a sensation. It's not an accident. Leonardo developed sfumato by applying dozens of translucent layers of oil paint, each thinner than a hair. He'd wait days, sometimes weeks, for one layer to dry before applying the next. All to get that illusion of breathing skin and flickering emotion. Today, artists like Florent Farges in France still train in this lost technique. And even with modern tools, it takes months to achieve what Leonardo did by candlelight 5 centuries ago. Because to paint like Da Vinci, you don't just need talent, you need patience, obsession and science. Leonardo da Vinci didn't just study what he could see, he studied how we see. He realized something astonishing. Our eyes don't capture reality, they interpret it. He noticed that objects far away appear cooler in color, less sharp and slightly faded. So in his paintings, distant landscapes fade into bluish-gray tones. This effect, what we now call atmospheric perspective, was centuries ahead of its time. But Leonardo went even further. He explored how the brain interprets edges, movement, and depth without modern neuroscience. And he applied those insights directly to the Mona Lisa. Her elusive smile isn't just a trick of paint, it's a trick of perception. As your eyes scan the painting, your central vision focuses on one part while your peripheral vision picks up the shadows and curves elsewhere. When you look away from her mouth, your brain fills in the missing detail and the smile appears. When you look directly, it's gone. This is not just anecdotal modern vision. Scientists like Dr. Margaret Livingston have confirmed it through experiments. Most people can't even accurately pick out the real Mona Lisa in tests because their perception is constantly shifting. Leonardo understood the eye better than most optometrists today. He painted with psychology before psychology even had a name. For centuries, the Mona Lisa has been admired through layers not just of symbolism, but of varnish. That glossy finish we see today, it's not what Leonardo painted. It's centuries of oxidation, dirt and protective coating, darkening her skin tones, dulling the sky and muting the original warmth. But what if we could peel back time? Enter Pascal Cotte, a French engineer who scanned the Mona Lisa using a 240 megapixel multispectral camera. With no contact, no damage and no chemicals, he virtually restored her. First, he digitally analyzed how different pigments aged over time. Then, using physics, chemistry, and AI-powered software, he reverse-engineered what the original colors might have been. The result? The sky behind her became a brilliant blue. Her cheeks regained a natural, rosy flush. The background popped with detail, and suddenly, she looked like she'd just stepped into the light. Some call it digital blasphemy, others a revelation. Because for the first time in centuries, we could see the Mona Lisa not as a relic under glass, But as Leonardo himself may have seen her vibrant, human, and breathtakingly alive. So what made Leonardo da Vinci different? It wasn't just that he painted the most famous smile in history. It wasn't that he sketched flying machines or dissected cadavers. It was that he refused to separate knowledge into boxes. To him, art and science were never rivals, they were allies. When he painted, he thought like an engineer. When he built, he moved like an artist. He saw anatomy in brushstrokes, geometry in shadows, optics in expression. In a world where we're taught to specialize, Leonardo reminds us of something radical. Curiosity doesn't need permission. He didn't wait for a degree in physics to experiment with light. He didn't need a title to study the heart or draw the sky. He just looked closely, obsessively, and asked, what if? And maybe that's the real lesson here. The Mona Lisa is more than a painting. She's a mirror reflecting the mind of someone who never stopped wondering. She's proof that when we blend science and soul, beauty becomes timeless. So next time you look at her, don't just look. Observe, question, imagine. That's what Leonardo would do.